Welcome into Seahawks Today, and in this Week 6 matchup for your Seattle Seahawks, we have a brutal one on the road after the loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Your Seattle Seahawks have to beat the Jacksonville Jaguars if they want to keep pace with the rest of the NFC West, and frankly, if they want to keep building on their chances of getting into the NFL postseason. We're going to get into the entire preview, some of the injury news, and of course, my predictions in this video. But before we do that, we got to fix the mojo. A lot of the fans in Seattle have been sad. They've been upset. They've been disappointed. Myself included. We got to get this thing flipped around, going the right direction. And the only way to do that is to make sure you go and you like the video. Now let's dive into the Seahawks injuries. I don't know if you can tell this, but there are a lot of names. There are a lot of players on this list. Right now, you've got two outside linebackers on it in that rush edge position. You're going to be without Derrick Hall in this one. He's dealing with a core injury, oblique. That's the one right there on the side. Some of the really hot dudes have that muscle just popping. I do not, obviously. DeMarcus Lawrence, we might get into more about what's going on with him and that quad injury that he suffered against the Arizona Cardinals. Riq Woolen is in concussion protocol. Now, it does feel like it's a different timetable than what Jake Bobo might have had, as Seattle has not officially ruled him out already. So there is a chance that Riq Woolen might be back in this game. But remember, concussion protocol can be really finicky. Devon Witherspoon still dealing with that MCL bruise. And then, of course, Julian Love dealing with his hamstring injury. We saw this last week. You have a good defense, but it's really, and I mean really thin. What do I mean by that? I mean, when you have your starters in, they're rocking and rolling. Even some of your backups in, a couple here, a couple there. We've seen this defense perform at a top-tier level. I mean, shoot, you were the best team in the NFL when it came to defensive DVOA. What that means in nerd speak is essentially you were doing better than everyone else in the same situations. If it's a 3rd and long, you were getting off the field more than anybody else. If it was a 3rd and short, you were still getting off the field more than anybody else. You had too many injuries to overcome against Tampa Bay. Are you going to be able to get some of these players back out there on the field so the defense can get back to what it was the first 4 weeks of the season? Now, I feel pretty good about these two players returning in action for you. I also felt pretty good about them returning in action last week. And, well, there's a lot of egg on my face, and I looked really stupid once they became officially inactive. That's Devon Witherspoon and Julian Love. Now, it did sound like from Mike Macdonald's presser earlier on this week, as well as his interview on the Mike Macdonald show, that Julian Love is on pace to play in this game. It sounds like he's going to be out practicing, running around, moving around with that hamstring. I think that Love is one of those players where I don't need him to have a ton of practice reps, just enough to make everyone feel comfortable that he's ready to go. Devon Witherspoon, that's a little bit more interesting. He was going in and getting more imaging done on his knee. It worries me, frankly, that he had 2 games off because of the injury to the MCL. He comes back against the Cardinals. He has 10 days off because you played on a Thursday to a Sunday, and he still wasn't ready and able to go. I'm a bit worried about, will Devon Witherspoon be ready to go by this Sunday, and how long is this injury going to affect him long term? I'm pretty hopeful that Lawrence is going to return from his injury, specifically because you're probably not going to be without his backup. More on that here in a little bit. But DeMarcus Lawrence was clearly missed in this one. I was having a conversation with a real one, Michelle, in our DMs in Instagram about how Seattle looked lost without Lawrence. And I don't think it was just specifically Lawrence not being there, but I think the fact that you did not have him for an extended period of time to go along with the other injuries in that game is where you missed him. Lawrence, now he doesn't have a lot of sacks on the year. In fact, he doesn't have a single one. But what he makes up for in that is a lot of the plays that he makes in the run game, as well as his ability to take on double teams and give more one-on-one matchups for guys like Derrick Hall and Boye Mafe, Uchenna Nwosu, who take advantage, and they've been getting those sacks. Hopefully, Lawrence, with that quad injury, will be able to return at a position that, frankly, you don't have any depth at right now. I'm hopeful that Woolen will play. Concussions are weird. Concussions are finicky. There's a whole process and procedure that you have to go through. There is a reason why concussion timelines aren't simple. There's a reason why they're not cut and dry, because every single one of those injuries is different for every person. It just depends on how your brain responds. It also depends on, does the medical staff in Seattle believe that you're ready to go? I'm one of those people who, after all of my playing days, I would recommend that you take care of that noggin. I would not recommend Riq Woolen rush back, but it did sound like maybe there was some hope that he'd be ready to go. I can all but guarantee that Derrick Hall's not going to play. That's a big loss for you. Obviously, Derrick Hall is not a starter for you, but when you lose a player that in pass rush situations is winning a fourth of the time against those blocking him, it does change a little bit of your game plan. Now you might not be able to get to the quarterback just by rushing four, something that Seattle has done for the majority of this year. You saw Tampa Bay make a change where they kept more guys in the blocking scheme, and it really hurt Seattle because they had to bring in more blitzes, and then that secondary, they got burnt like toast. Will Seattle be able to get more wins even without Hall being there on Sunday? We'll see. Jaguars injury-wise, it's a little bit different. They got a couple injuries on the offensive line. So on the offensive side of the football, most of their issues, at least coming out right now, this is basically immediately following their game on Monday night. So there might be some changes to the injury report, but right now, the offensive line is where you're seeing a lot of those banged-up issues happening. That's good for Seattle, because where are your injuries? Well, at the defensive line. Hopefully you can take advantage of some of those. When it comes to the defensive side of the ball, Trayvon Walker, defensive end, he missed the last game dealing with a wrist injury. No word yet on if he'll be able to go against the Seahawks. Didn't play in the Kansas City game. And then Yasir Abdullah, the linebacker, he got a little bit banged up after that Kansas City game. Will he be able to go against the Seahawks? Only time will tell. I want to know what you think. Are you worried right now about the Seahawks injury report? Do you feel like it's not good? Or do you feel like, hey, it's going to be okay. It's good. Injuries happen in this sport. Seattle will have that next man up mentality, and they will do what needs to be done. Let me know down below in the comments. You feel like the Seahawks are going to be good, even with the injuries, or not good with all the injuries that they have suffered? I got more to get into in this preview, but before I do that, I have to let you know about our good friends over at PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every single day, but on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. PrizePicks is simple to play. Just pick more or less on any 2 to 6 player stat projections. If your picks are right, you could cash in. PrizePicks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. PrizePicks is the best way to win cash this football season. Which players are going off? Which ones are overhyped? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your takes into cash all season long on PrizePicks. This Sunday, I have a nice little 2-pick power play. Nice and easy. Nothing too crazy when it came to what players I was deciding on. Sam Darnold, more than his passing yardage against Jacksonville. Daniel Jones going up against the Arizona Cardinals. More passing yards there as well. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. Thank you to our good friends over at PrizePicks. Now, we do have a couple of matchups here that you need to watch out for. And I think as we go through it, you are going to see that the Seahawks offensive line needs to step up in this one. If the Seahawks offensive line can keep the Jaguars defensive line off them, you got a good chance of victory there as well. But another thing that I'm looking at in this one is when we flip over to the defensive side of the football. I'm looking squarely at the Seahawks defensive line against the Jaguars offensive line. And it's a similar thought process as to why I was looking earlier at the Seahawks O-line versus the Jags D-line. If you're able to keep your quarterback upright and happy and you're running the football well, you're going to win a lot of football games. If the Seahawks defensive line is able to get into the backfield on Trevor Lawrence and they're able to stop this rushing attack and this passing attack from Jacksonville, Seattle's going to win this football game. We've seen what happens in the first 4 weeks of the season what this Seahawks defense can do when you're getting pressure, when you're in the backfield, when you're constantly making big plays. I think that you can do that again, especially with all of the injuries that the Jaguars are dealing with on that O-line. And we already know this. If Trevor Lawrence is getting pressure, he's going to make turnovers. It's the big main key to victory. Get in Trevor Lawrence's lap. He's fool's gold right now. A lot of people, myself included, before I dove into the stats, said, wow, Trevor Lawrence has really kind of turned up what he has been. He's making a lot of plays that he wasn't making last year. Then you dive into the stats. He's only got 1,000 yards through 5 weeks, basically averaging 200 yards a game. That's not that great. Well, he has 6 touchdowns passing. Great. He's got 5 interceptions, so he's basically going 1-to-1 ratio there. And hey, man, that play was really cool when you tripped and fell and then somehow still got a touchdown. Are you expecting to do that every single time you get in the red zone? I don't think so. Seattle's defensive line and O-line, if they win against the Jaguars' O and D line, you're going to be sitting pretty and you're going to like how the scoreboard looks at the end of the day on Sunday. Now, I want your score prediction. Give us here at Seahawks Today your score prediction down below in the comments. Do you think the Seahawks are going to win? Do you think the Jaguars are going to win? Let us know. Hopefully a lot more of you are saying Seattle ends up on top. For my score prediction, I've got your Seattle Seahawks coming away with a victory, 24-21 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Why? I think that Sam Darnold is playing at an elite level right now, and he's only going to continue to do so. Your offensive line figured out a lot of the mistakes that they had previously, and they're running the ball effectively. Kenneth Walker had 86 yards in the last game, and he did it on 10 carries. I think he's going to be able to continue to do that. Zach Charbonnet finding ways to get into the end zone for your team. I love it all. Defensively, you struggled. You looked bad. You think Mike McDonald is going to let that happen again? Do you think Mike McDonald is going to let that happen 2 games in a row against a team that you absolutely have to beat? I don't think so. I think this defense gets right. I think the defensive line gets after Trevor Lawrence. He makes the mistakes you need, and all of a sudden you're sitting at 4-2 going into a Monday night matchup against the Houston Texans. If you want the Seattle Seahawks to win, make sure you go up and you smash that thumbs up button. Help us get those like numbers up here on Seahawks Today. And we got to fix the mojo, man. There's too much down. There's too much depression. We got to get the happiness up. Turn that smile or turn that frown upside down. Excuse me. We need the like buttons going. We need the Seahawks happy and ready to roll and get that victory against Jacksonville. Until next time, I'll see you later.